So welcome again to the room. Uh, it's a pleasure to host these amazing guys. We mainly have now, it's our European panel, and we have a big challenge because we have 1 hour to listen to all they have to say. So I'll make it very short, and I'll give you the stage. And I will start with Timur. Timur is a serial entrepreneur. He has a lot of projects, and he especially Move Anywhere and World Talents. Timur is especially concerned about a topic today that he wants to address that has to do with investment migration. So would you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Should I start the speech or just a short introduction?
You have 8 minutes.
Right. So provided the time shortage, I'll try to use the time duly. So my name is Timur, and I sell passports. That's what I usually tell the clients. But I'll give a bit of an explanation here, just not to raise too many concerns. Well, the industry I present is called investment migration. It is famous for attracting investments into countries, and 2/3 of the countries in the world have certain legislations which allow foreign nationals to purchase real estate or bring some other type of investments and receive nationality or residency in exchange for that investments. The industry is, at the same time, infamous for several scandals. Those are quite limited, though, but those scandals have been the reason for its, let's say, spooky reputation. You could have bought passport in the Roman Empire, so we've been there for long. And you can not buy a passport in Europe now, although you can get a residency in exchange for investments. And the vast majority of purchases are made for real estate. So this is the industry I represent. The industry has faced several problems and issues through the time of its existence. But I will concentrate on one, which is most relevant to the today's conference. And that issue is the lack of efficiency of investments. By that I mean that behind every investor, behind every entrepreneur who wishes to participate in a certain program, there is a story of success, because the programs are somewhat costly to participate, and it is usually perceived that $500,000 of investment available for an entrepreneur is already some sort of achievement. So there is a guy, an entrepreneur usually, who wants to secure their, let's say, geopolitical risks, and for that they wish to achieve second residency or a passport. I know that for the many in the audience, that might sound a bit exotic, as I assume that many are European citizens or citizens of the United States, and then talking about nationality and why you might want to have another nationality is very, very exotic. But that does help a lot in terms of travel, in terms of being able to move to another country and feel secure, in terms of conducting business, in terms of being able to open a simple bank account, I have to admit, which is very difficult to do unless you are resided here in Europe or in the States. So the issue is that those investments, which are billions and billions of dollars, as an example, I'll give you Portugal, which has raised an approximation of €5 billion of investments through the Golden Visa program since its beginning in 2012. And then recently, certain changes have been introduced, which related to excluding real estate as an option for investment and leaving venture capitals and investments into cultural heritage. But what I see is that behind those investors, there are success stories, their experience, and their potential to support ecosystems in the countries where they wish to obtain the residency or the nationality. I'll give you an example. Amongst the clients who we've managed to attract to participate in one of our programs, we have people who have their companies traded in NASDAQ. An example of the guy, 1987, companies valued at 4.5 billion. He actively participates as a mentor to different projects located here in the Faro. He has a contract with the University of Algarve as an entrepreneur and as a mentor to the local projects. So what I see is that we have to think of a way how to funnel the knowledge and experience of those entrepreneurs from around the world to support the projects, to support the ecosystem and the startups which are based here. And the efficiency of the capital, which is potentially transferred into real estate, should be redirected to support early stage projects and the startups which have potentially much higher outcome for the local environment. Yeah, that's more or less what we do. We've been developing the initiative called Global Talent Portugal with the University of Algarve. And yeah, so that's what we've been doing here, and I'll be glad to answer the questions maybe later.
Thank you, Timur. Right, okay. Thank you, Timur. Right on time. So I hope we still save some questions for the end, which I'm pretty sure there will be some. So now I'm going to introduce you Daniel Breitinger. So Daniel is the head of startups at Bitkom. He is committed with the growth and prosperity of startups. And today I think he will address the topic about how the startup ecosystem is at the European level and how important to level this Europe-wide. So Daniel?
Yeah, thank you very much, Marta. Thank you very much for having me. You see my white socks, so you guessed correctly, I'm from Germany. Working for Bitkom, we're not affiliated with Bitcoin. Bitkom is an industry association. We're the biggest one in Europe for the digital industry. So we have around about 2,200 member companies, half of the German stock index, basically all the global players, 1,000 IT SMEs, and also around about 700 tech startups. My team and I, we are responsible for the policy frameworks for startups in Germany and Europe, but also we're something like a business platform where we bring together startups and established corporates on one table to create a level playing field. So as you see, I'm really approaching the whole startup ecosystem topic from a policy framework topic. And today I want to look in the future to give some points where we see where we should improve on a European level in order to strengthen the whole European startup ecosystem. But before to that, I think I jumped to the past, and don't take it personally, but you're all old enough to know the concept of analog cameras. So you still remember the ones where you put the film and take photos. So back in the days, around the 90s, there was this company called Kodak. It's a US company, yellow, red logo. In the US, they had a market share of 80% in the camera business because they made these films and they are apparently highly complex to produce and not that easy to copy. What happened is they leaned back because they saw like, okay, that's our revenue, so we get a lot of money just selling the films. But then there was this digital camera thing coming up, and suddenly a lot of players entering the market, easy to produce digital cameras, and Kodak lost the race. They ended up in the 2010s with 7% market share. So they lost around about 80% of market share in just 15 years, eventually ending up bankrupt in 2014, I think. So what I'm trying to tell, it's not the big who eat small, but it's the fast who eat the slow. So in order to compete on an international level, since we have global markets, you have to be fast in a digital transformation. And we see different drivers at the moment. So we have, on? Yeah, okay. So we see different drivers at the moment. On the one hand, we have a labor shortage. We spoke about it yesterday in hospitality, but you also see it in construction, for example. You especially see it speaking about IT professionals. We really have a lack of workers and laborers in Europe. On the other hand, we have political goals. We want to be climate neutral in 30 years. So we have to become more efficient to save resources, to save time, to save energy. So we need to digitize here as well. And what we also see is SMEs. Everybody knows like technology is really important, but nobody is applying technology. So we still see, especially in SME, that there's a huge of smooth transitions, and there's a lack of getting the transition done at SME level, which is really important because, no offense to our US friends, we are in an international competition as the location Europe towards the US, but also towards China. So we need to consider and think about how can we keep our economy competitive and how can we keep our economy ahead of the time and on a technology-wise high level. And that's where startups can help. But we also need to build startups on a European level who can compete on an international scale. And that's really the big hurdle we have to take. And we need to improve several framework conditions. On the one hand, the ideas, where the ideas come from, that's usually a university. We need to improve the talent factor, so the people who want to build those European champions and who want to work with those ideas. We need to improve the capital they're working with and the financial situation, and we also need to improve the collaboration. So just to give you some ideas on that. So I went to the tech campus yesterday here, and I really liked the idea because you go to university, but you build a hub where you bring together the uni, the talented ideas from the unis, you bring together the corporates from the private world, you bring together also the state, and the scientific researchers as well. So you connect all the important players in order to help young people with good ideas to prove their ideas with practical help in the economy to give them a first idea for the MVPs, how it could work. So we definitely need to improve the infrastructure and the third mission at universities. We also need to bring more female persons into entrepreneurship to make the whole startup ecosystem more diverse, and also to make it more easy to transfer good ideas into the practice, especially when we speak about intellectual property. On the other hand, I said we need more talent. So we need to make Europe, and that's, I think, where Algarve can really, really have an advantage location-wise. We need to make Europe a really interesting spot for people to come here, to start startups here, to work here. Obviously, we need to make immigration from third states more easy, more digitized, but we also need to promote Europe as a location, as a startup location, to have more startups here and more people willing to come here. So we have the talents, we have the ideas, but they need capital. And that's where we see, especially in the growth phase in Europe, we were still lacking of money to really help startups to get on a next level, speaking about Series B, Series C, and so on. We're still lacking a lot of capital, especially from Europe. We see a lot of investors coming from Asia, coming from the US, but we definitely need to strengthen the VC ecosystem in Europe as well. We have the European Tech Champions Initiative now from the European Commission, which is quite good, and I would also recommend Portugal to join the initiative. But we still need to find more money from pension funds, from insurances to get into the market to help startups to really get on a global level. And last but definitely not least, we need to collaborate more. We need to help startups to get traction, to get into the market. So we need the state to procure more startups, to get startups into public procurement in order to help the state on the one hand to get more digitized, but on the other hand also to give startups first customers, which is really good reputation as well, because you can put the logo of the state on your website, say, hey, former and happy customers. So that's where we need to help, and we also need to help to bring startups together with SMEs, because they need to help, because they don't have the know-how. We have to bring the know-how from startups, innovative players into the SMEs, and that's where we also need to pull down the walls, bring them together, and bring the whole ecosystem together. And that's not only a national task, it's a task for whole Europe. We need to make it more easy to enter other markets in Europe, where you have different cultures, different languages, different regulatory frameworks. But especially for startups, it's really, really important to make it more easy to enter other states, to stay in Europe, to keep the value creation in Europe, and to strengthen the whole ecosystem. And I hope that also in Portugal, you're also supporting these ideas, and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Daniel. Good. So now we are moving to Wouter. So Wouter is already involved with the Algarve. So he I don't know if it was when you came here, but you created already the circular hub Algarve, that is a bridge between innovative companies offering tools to face major social challenges in Portugal. So I think you have a lot to say, and take us through this necessary change in paradigm that you speak so often. So.
Yeah, I'm coming in the Algarve for 20 years due to my lovely wife. It's good that we had a delegation from the US talking about the VCs and the investment and aiming for becoming a unicorn. And one shift in paradigm is that we should stop focusing on unicorns. And there is an alternative, that's the zebra company. So I want you to embrace the zebra. But the thing with the unicorns, and I've been in startup challenges, I had startups, and if you have a good idea that is of great social value and other values, but if it's not making money, a VC is not interested. So if we, as we are now facing huge challenges, we have to think differently in what is value and how do we create value, and how are we going to do that together with government, with companies, with startups. And that is not focusing on the hockey stick growth and the 1 billion valuation, but looking at it from a different perspective. There are some examples. There's one Dutch famous company that was a great idea, Booking.com. And actually, we now, as a society, have a problem with Booking.com because they are too big, they have too much power, they have only one goal, and that is getting as much money as they can get. So if you are a hotel and you want to rent out your rooms, you want to not use Booking, you're fucked, basically. Excusez le mot, but I'm Dutch, I can do that. And that the idea of Booking.com, and the same with Thuisbezorgd, how you call it, all the food-bringing companies, it's just one company, and Airbnb is the same problem. I'm staying in an Airbnb, and I didn't want to, but, well, I had to. The fact that social commonalities like a house is misused basically only for shareholder value, because it's not adding value to a neighborhood to have an apartment divided in 4 different rooms where people stay, they don't know each other, they come and they go, and nobody is profiting from that. And now in Amsterdam we try to regulate it, which is quite difficult. In Portugal, they are going to regulate the way you get your licenses and evaluate the licenses, because the money defines the way society works. And in a way, from a moral perspective, that's just not right. So we need the money, so we need investments, but we don't have to all become billionaires. We really don't have to. Being a millionaire is more than enough, I think. But have decent living, affordable housing. Yeah, I see the problem with Airbnb in this neighborhood around the university. There's so many Airbnb. How? That is affordable housing for normal people. But it's taken out, and we have to change it. And that's the paradigm shift. So lose the focus on unicorns and start focusing on zebras. And the funny thing is that as Europe, we only have to be competitive, we have to think about the ownership of the company. And if you only focus on the shareholder value, then the company and the IP in the company goes to the highest bidder. And for Germany, I just read that I think 70% of the unicorns are not funded by German money, but it's funded by US money, which says the IP is transferred. So it's not transfer knowledge by cause, but it's transfer knowledge by money. And that is a problem, because we are, as Europe, competing as a region and not amongst countries. And so the way we think about ownership and investment, I think there should be a shift in paradigm.
Okay. Can you...
More realistic, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In one sentence, can you tell what a zebra company is?
A zebra company is growing on a natural way, is not focusing only on shareholder value, but also on societal values. And it can be, in the end, valued at $1 billion, but it's not the goal.
With social impact, then?
Yeah. All stakeholders in the environment of that company should profit from the profit.
Okay. Thank you, Wouter. So now moving to our next speaker. So I'm not going to read all your name. Rhett.
It's not that difficult.
That's enough. So Rhett is the CEO of Heijnen, entrepreneur and investor in Web3, blockchain, cybersecurity projects. I know that I read a lot of projects you were involved in, so I'm not going to mention them all. But you are concerned about giving a more expert perspective on the importance of disintermediation and how important it is to speed up the adoption of Web3 and blockchain so that we can remain competitive. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Who owns Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency here? It's about 1/3. Okay, that's good. So I spoke a lot with new people in the space about this new technology, and basically every time I get the response, yeah, it's only hype, it's only speculation, Bitcoin is nothing. But Bitcoin has some very interesting characteristics and a very interesting background. For you to learn, Bitcoin is solving a very old problem that we call the double spend problem as mathematicians. What is the double spend problem? The double spend problem means that something that is digital, something that is on the internet, can be very easily copied. On the internet, basically, you cannot steal anything. You can only copy something. And Bitcoin, the underlying protocol, blockchain, solves that. The fact that we can copy things basically completely destroyed the music industry. It almost destroyed the film industry. It's making society, and I think you can agree with me, a lot of the problems that we have in society are being created by the fact that we can copy things on the internet very easily. We can copy identities very easily and create cybersecurity problems. We can very easily advertise something on Airbnb. So the fact that things are digital creates also a lot of problems in society because we do not have a proper match between the real world, the physical world, and the digital world. In the digital world, things are just too simple to copy. Bitcoin blockchain fixes this. And it also makes it possible to directly communicate between each other. Right now, I can't send money to my colleagues without a bank. Basically, sending money is just transferring a liability with one bank to a liability to another bank. I can't directly send money like we can in the real world. I can't give you 10 euros digitally, or you couldn't, because now with the arrival of this Web3, this blockchain world, we can do that. We can disintermediate, so we don't need banks anymore. Can you imagine a world without banks? Especially here in Portugal. I mean, every corner in every city, in every town here has a bank office. There's like, I lived in Lagos for 5 years. I think there's like 4 banks in that small town. If you compare a small town in the Netherlands, there's no bank anymore. They got rid of banks like 15 years ago. Everything is online. So imagine the disruption that will take place in the next 10 years. All these banks will disappear. All these offices will disappear because we can do direct trading. We're going to disintermediate. And that happens with a lot of business models. Banking is one of them, but there's a lot of government has a lot of business models where somebody is in between, and that creates a trust level. In Europe, that is a in Europe we have a pretty well functioning society. But if you take examples in South America or Asia or Africa, they lack trust. There's not enough trust to do normal commerce. And with this new technology, we can disrupt and introduce trust structures. Like I was announced, I'm involved with like 60 projects that want to revolutionize energy so that we have provenance on where is energy coming from. So we're introducing a chip that's directly connected to a solar panel and generates a crypto anchor so that we know that it's green energy. It's anchored on the blockchain. I introduced a project called WordProof, which is timestamping every page you publish on a website. WordPress, for example. If you have a website, you press publish on the document, and in the same time, you anchor it on the blockchain. Google is very interested in that because Google currently doesn't know who wrote the original article. Who was the first? Nobody knows. With crypto anchors, you'll know that this was this author, a very small author, somebody somewhere, and with this timestamping of that content, we can prove that it was you. So very important. I'm involved with project to invoicing, for example. Invoicing, if you send an invoice, I used to own a cybersecurity company, I sold it. One of my biggest clients was ASML, famous Dutch company, and it's very famous, very big, and they just say 90 days payment terms. And that's, in the Netherlands, very long. I know other countries, it's even longer, but in the Netherlands, basically everybody 14 days, 30 days. And then you have one customer that wants to pay in 90 days. You need to finance that 90 days as a small company. We're introducing the capability to create an NFT for that. So a crypto representation of that invoice, and you could make the customer sign that it's an undisputed invoice. If it's an undisputed invoice, after, for example, 5 days, that is a legal title to trade. And with the disintermediation that I spoke about, you could get other people to finance that invoice. With DeFi platforms, we're creating a world where you as an individual can directly finance that sort of things, yeah, without a bank in the middle. And imagine if you do that fractionalized, a new word maybe for you guys, but fractionalized means, let's say there's 100,000, let's say you have 100,000 or 1,000 euros that you want to not put in a bank, but put on this new internet, this new Web3 thing. You can fractionalize that. So you do €1 in this ASML invoice, and €1 in this other invoice, and €1 in this other invoice. If you fractionalize it all the way up to €1, then it's almost risk-free. There's still risks, but if you slice it in very small parts, basically you become your own bank. You are financing other people, other projects, other companies. We're disintermediating the world by creating that sort of directness. You loan money to other people. This is revolutionary technology. Today we also spoke about AI, another very revolutionary technology. So I think the Algarve should embrace that sort of technology. Then we can be a big player in the European market. Thanks.
Thank you, Rhett. A lot to think about, definitely. Yeah. So let's hope we make it to... Oh, desculpa, estou sem timer. Okay. We have an hour again, so it resetted. So now I'm going to introduce you to Pablo Castillo. Pablo is a CEO of Chain for Travel, with over 20 years of experience in data and content management, e-commerce. innovation management. Pablo will lead us on the topic of how to manage innovation in the travel and hospitality industry. So welcome, Pablo.
Muito obrigado. Bom dia, pessoal. My name is Pablo, and I'm going to speak little about innovation from two perspectives. On the one hand side, from startup perspective, which we just founded from 2 years ago. The startup is called Chain for Travel. We built a blockchain for the travel industry, actually, which I'm going to present you in a short video so that you see a little bit how innovation could look like in Web3 and travel. And then as well from a corporate established company, because there are two angles to innovation from that. So let's start with the video. Please roll the video so that you get a little bit of a glimpse what we are trying to bring of innovation. Then I will explain how.
Are you ready to join the travel revolution? Today's travel industry is ripe for change. The development and improvement of touristic products are much slower than they should be. That leads to standards and exchange protocols that are more than 40 years old. Not to mention the lack of a unified data stream and high transaction costs. The solution to these problems could be decentralization. And this solution is presented by Camino. Camino is a consortium blockchain built and governed by the travel industry for the travel industry. Imagine if everyone could connect with each other directly in a secure way and use free-flowing data with the possibility of instant monetization. By utilizing the power of blockchain, we can make this possible. The game-changing technology offers faster, safer, and smarter trading of touristic products, B2B and B2C for each network participant. Such an approach fosters the identification of new business models, the creation of new travel-related products, and the exploration of new ways to interact with travelers. Camino forms an entirely decentralized and democratic system. We offer the travel industry a chance to reinvent and reshape itself according to its own rules. We are starting a revolution in the travel industry. Join Camino, the world of travel reinvented.
Good. So how did we come up with this idea? What did we smoke? We were not in Amsterdam then, actually. But as the previous panel actually explained, we started with a problem definition. And travel industry today has several problems. Let me elaborate on a few of those, and then how we ended up with blockchain technology, because we started really from the problem definition, then looked for a suitable technology to solve these problems. Blockchain, let me put it like that, is not a silver bullet. So as every technology has had pros and cons, but for the travel industry, it could solve a lot of them. One of the problems you just mentioned is trust. Did you know that TripAdvisor, for instance, has a huge problem with fake reviews? So 5 to 10% of the TripAdvisor reviews are actually fake. So how can we ensure that people do not buy positive or negative reviews and the information that is actually there can be trusted by our readers and travelers? So blockchain offers, like you said, with entering on the blockchain itself, that we have a proof of travel, for instance, that customers can only write reviews who have really been there. And you put it on the blockchain, everybody can see it. In our travel industry, costs are a huge topic. I mean, 3% payment costs in average. 3% is a lot, talking about the low margin business. I used to work for tour operators where we had a 1% EBIT margin as a total. So now imagine reducing the 3% down to almost nothing, you triple your EBIT margin by using blockchain technology, because blockchain technology, for instance, offers not only I can send goods, but I can also take the payment in the same microsecond and make sure there is no fraud, which is another huge problem in our industry. We have 24 billion of frauds every year in the travel industry coming from chargebacks and fraudulent bookings. So that would go away as well, and so on and so on and so on. So we had a look at the technology, at the state of travel it is. I mean, the travel industry made a good job in the past 20 years basically to modernize, to put on nice, really, really emotional and beautiful front ends. But behind the scenes, if you look behind the scenes, we are working with systems which are older than I am, and I'm already 43 years old. This morning, for instance, I was sitting in Zurich before flying here, and maybe you have had the same experience. If you sit near the gate where the 8th boarding agent is sitting, you hear this dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. That's a needle printer, which basically prints out a PAX manifest based on Edifact. Edifact is a format from 1980, the year I was born. So we are using and working with systems which are outdated. We need to upgrade that. And this is sometimes something I talk about. A lot of people always think about innovation in a way that, okay, we need to build really, really nice things and fancy things. But I say, hey, let's first fix the basics and then build on top of that. AI is another example. Now everybody, and if you are a startup in this room, you will notice it, that if you reach out to VCs or funding, everybody will be asking about AI. But AI is not yet there where it should be because it's based on unverified data. So combining blockchain and AI in future can do a lot of good as well. So we had a look at the problems and the current state of technology in the travel sector, and then we also had a little bit of a look into the future. Predicting the future is super hard. Nobody has this glass bowl where we can know what's going to happen, but we know a few things. So we heard about Web3. Technology is evolving constantly, right? So travel industry is somewhere between 1.5 and Web 2. Now our aim is actually to push technology and the travel industry more versus Web 3. It will not be a jump. It will be more a staggered approach, going to Web 2.5, Web 3, and so on. We know that wallets in future will have a huge impact. Who uses Google Pay or Google Wallet and Apple Wallet? Hands up. So basically everybody, right? In future, you will be doing communication through your wallet. So Outlook, if you think from it, what Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3 is, so Web 1 is basically reading information on the internet. Web 2 is sharing information, which had a big impact once mobile and social media was invented. And Web 3 is owning that information, more the privacy part as well, and sometimes also the disintermediation part, depending on the use case. Now, our communications tool today, mostly used, like Outlook, WhatsApp, Telegram, those are all Web 2. In future, we will talk more about Web 3 communication tools, and that will be based on wallet, where you are not only owning the information you're sending, but you can send as well value. So we know wallets will be a bigger part. We know that e-identities will be a bigger part. The European Union, for instance, is working on a project called e-IDs, which by 2030 has the aim that 80% of all European citizens will have a digital passport, digital driving license, digital health passport, and so on and so on. So that's another building block we know that's coming. We know that crypto and digital currencies, even the central banks are working on CBDC, central bank digital currencies. Not so well seen in the Web3 crypto space, but they are working on that as well. So now imagine only these three building blocks: wallets, digital money, digital identities. The way we book and interact with travelers will completely change. And that's why we need as well a new platform for that. One of the thoughts we had, I mean, we spent billions and billions as an industry in innovating systems and new processes and so on as an industry. But there are little efforts to do it as a general industry itself. So every vertical has their own systems. Every company has their own systems. Every company innovates on their own. And we said, okay, we are never going to achieve one of the catchwords I've been hearing since more than 20 years in the travel industry, this dream of a connected trip, this dream of seamless travel, because there's too much friction in our travel world today. So we have too much systems involved. So why don't we turn it around? We provide an open source platform for the travel industry based on blockchain technology, which, by the way, is not a new technology. I mean, the first white paper came out by end of 90s. It has been more than proved since 2007 when Bitcoin came out. So it's actually already 20 years old. And that's maybe also one question we can elaborate later on over a glass of vino. What is innovation, actually? For me personally, innovation is when it hits mass market, when it's proven. So don't jump maybe always to the newest hot technologies out there. Really think about what innovation can bring, and innovation can be something very, very different. Some companies may innovate on a process internally, some have a new product or go into a new market with something really, really new, but at the end, it must be used. Then it is an innovation. For startups, creating innovation, I mean, it's their DNA. That's easier almost, except for funding and the learnings and the times you fall and have to get up. But for established companies, what I saw also from my personal experience, one of the biggest problems is actually that innovation is not handled as a strategic task within the company. It's done by the way. Somebody does a little bit of innovation, but there's not enough resources looking at that. I used to work for a big corporate, and I had the luxury to have resources assigned to innovation. So we had an innovation department, which was nice because they could have a look at emerging technologies, emerging startups, and this is something I definitely recommend to every established company. Have a look what kind of startups are emerging. Have a look what kind of technology is emerging, and decide for yourself, is this a friend or is it a foe? Can I use it or do I have to fight it? Fighting it becomes harder every time, so you need to embrace it. And most importantly, what a lot of companies struggle to adapt innovation is because they are tied within their legacy trap. So it means we are all companies, start growing. Your company IT start growing as well, and you have a lot of old systems involved. So when you start building or reforming your thing, even also as a startup, think always about the flexible IT architecture. This is nothing sexy to think about. This is nothing sexy to sell to an investor, but it's really the base work, the groundwork you have to do to keep it adaptable. Something else we also know when it comes to innovation, technology currently is moving at an incredible speed. I mean, it's exponential. We humans being, we are linear people. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that we understand. Every year we have birthday, that's easy to understand. Exponentiality is very, very hard to get. And we people as a society, we move slower than technology, and the regulators move even slower. Sometimes they overreact, like we heard as well. And so this is also something, as a startup, but also as an established company, you need to keep an eye on what's moving not only in the tech space, but also in the legal space. We see that especially in the Web3 area right now. So that's...
Thank you.
Sorry.
A lot. We could be sitting here talking all day.
Yes.
About all these things, and I'm sure we'll do that today and tomorrow. So I'm saving time for questions and answers, and I think we are going to make it. So now I'm going to introduce you to Remzi Aru. Remzi is a thinker, a visionary, an entrepreneur, a founder. He sees tech opportunity everywhere, so he has to avoid listening to all the debates, otherwise he will start a new project, and mainly played a vital role in the digitalization of global tourism when he founded Giata back in the 90s. So Remzi truly believes in the power of data distribution, and he will tell us how can the Algarve do better in this area. So Remzi, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So you could figure out from the words used, from Wouter that he is Dutch, from his socks that he is German, and from my hair that I'm the dinosaur of tourism. And since 1996, I was hitchhiking on the street, and it sounds strange, but the banker stopped, and so I was driving with his car, and then told my idea, and so we built a company where we started to digitize data at that time. And every friend of mine said, hey, who needs digitized data? Because we have the catalogs, it's all on paper, and you can read it, and the paper is done, the catalogs are for free. Why should someone buy a database and pay money and license fee for it? But later on, everybody understood, so the internet data came, and we started to distribute data to almost everybody. So we have 21,000 multipliers. So when you go to Google, for instance, and you look at the maps, the geo-coordinates come from Giata, the polygons come from Giata. If you go to Booking, the IDs behind come from Giata. And it was very interesting what you told with the anchor. It is the ID of the hotel. We will have to talk about this later on, because the true identification of a hotel. So I'm a speaker, but also listener to very interesting things that some of my colleagues tell here. So 21,000 multipliers means we serve almost all the travel industry throughout the world. And the interesting thing in this is that travel always has been virtual, always, since it existed. But the people don't realize this sometimes. For instance, the very first travel, when Thomas Cook sold his first ticket in Britain from A to B, he started telling the people, if you buy this ticket, you go from A to B, and in your destination, the landscape will be like this, the lake will be like this, you will see. And so he made the picture in his brain. And so the guy bought the ticket, went from A to B, and saw, so he was happy or he was disappointed, depending on the information. And then it started to be on paper, the information, it was distributed. But at that time, the reach, Thomas Cook could only reach one person by telling. On the catalog, you could reach more persons, but it was very, very expensive. So I remember at the times when the tour operators produced catalogs, they spent dozens of millions on printing catalogs for distributing the information on travel agencies and just bringing the picture to the end customer. Nowadays, everything is digital, so the barrier is very, very low for everybody to produce content, but it's very difficult to distribute it. And it's very interesting, if you speak to hoteliers in tourism, they still don't abstract the importance of distributing the right content to the right place. So they live in their hotel, and they can touch every day their hotel, they know their hotel, and they think that the world also knows their hotel. So it's an abstraction that maybe someone in Germany or in Britain does not know the hotel and needs this information as a digital, and needs it to have distributed. On the one hand, yes, it's very easy now to produce digital data and to distribute it and to secure it also through blockchain. But on the other hand, the other side of the medal, it's very, very inflationary. So everybody can do it, and you can produce as much as you want, but you have to bring it to the right destination. And so everybody spoke today about the technology, about new things. But me as a dinosaur, I think it's also very important to have personal connections to the people. So tourism especially is a people business. So you can have the best technology. Trust you can do by blockchain, but trust you can also do by a personal and a good contact and to know the companies and to do so. If, and I will offer this to all companies here, startups who are in tourism, if there should be touristic startups here or enterprises or students or whatever, we have the biggest booth and the biggest tourism travel fair, ITB. I invite you to come and make all your meetings there and take part, and I will introduce you to everybody and open the doors that you can just start and go on and have the right contacts. And this is from the perspective of companies in the Algarve and of the hoteliers. I see that this destination is very, very nice, is beautiful, had a huge potential, but too few people know about it. And this is because of the lacking data distribution. If you look, for instance, in other destinations, for instance, in Turkey, they are very, very aware of this, and they're very professional in data distribution, and they reach all tour operators, they reach all platforms, everything. But here in the Algarve, it is more like everything is nice, it's a beautiful destination, but in terms of all possibilities and abilities, the people, the hotels and tourism industry is not using the possibilities as they should use it. And they're not aware of how important it is. And one of the jobs of you also, of the young people here and of the startups, is to change that. And on one hand, it seems very complicated, but on the other hand, it's very easy. You just have to know the right tools, the right people, and the right steps to take to help. So you will be the ones to help the hoteliers and the industry to go the next step and to develop very well. And this is one of the reasons why we sit here all together. And here we are, and we are ready to meet all together and discuss about it, how we can do this together.
Thank you. So we have some time, so let's open the discussion. I don't know, I took some notes, but we mentioned dinosaurs, zebras, startups, students. So we have a little bit of everything. We have the world and talents and how to move people around and what needs to be done, especially when we talk every day about the lack of human resources, of labor. So these are really, really challenges we need to face. And we also talked about societal challenges and how we can move around this. Growth of AI, blockchain, Web3, how we need to speed up. And like also Remzi said, that we are not doing so well at data distribution. What do we have to learn? Disintermediation. So guys, where are we heading? How do you see these in the next 5, 10 years, or maybe 2 or 3? Or audience, if you want to put a question, please feel free to start. So we have some, Andressa, are you? Oh, you're there, maybe. I'll give them my mic if it is necessary. So let's start.
Yeah.
It's a question, and it's for Rhett and Pablo. It's kind of a joint question because you're talking about the blockchain and innovators in hospitality and travel. Now, the age-long problem is how do you get fiat money on and off the blockchain, and how would that impact an industry like travel to use one of the many cryptocurrencies. Why would they bother with the difficulty of getting it on and off ramp?
Right. So to make business in the travel industry, I mean, here we are talking also about, I make a booking today for something in 9 months. Cryptocurrencies which are volatiles are actually not really the best way to go forward, although there are OTAs like Pink Data, Sleep.io, and a few others to mention. Travala, for instance, who are accepting crypto as well because they hedge it and they speculate with it. We are introducing stablecoins. Stablecoins is a digital representation of fiat. I agree with you. Today, the on-ramp and off-ramp is kind of complex and it's a new process. But looking ahead at the future, knowing that CBDC money is coming, digital money is coming anyway, then it will be actually much easier in future. But that's the way how actually on the network itself you will start working. You will work either with crypto or definitely with stable coins itself. And stable coins, go ahead.
So the CBDC then, you are basically predicting that the banks will always be needed, unlike
I'm predicting that a lot of governments will not lose the initiative on money politics and control over money. That's what the Web3 folks are fighting for, actually, in the initial idea to get rid of the banks. We see more and more banks and finance institutions are actually now entering on licenses. MasterCard, Visa, JP Morgan, and all those guys are now filing patents as well for any kind of wallet technology as well, because they are also actually being disintermediated by blockchain technology. So I think we will see a mix. I believe there will be cryptocurrencies in future. Most probably for some projects will definitely have impact, or one of the altcoins which have been around since long. But I think technology will evolve and help the society also to use digital money. And then we need a system which actually can use digital money as well on an easy, trustworthy, and cheap way to interact with each other. That's my take on it.
Do you want to add something, Rhett?
Good points. Completely agree with most of you, 90% of what you say. There's just a very different perspective on what continent you are. If it's Africa, it's completely different than Asia. There's countries that really, really embrace blockchain, China and Russia. Understand that they have a trust issue in their infrastructure. So really depends on where you're from. Sending money from one place on this earth to another place on this earth uses very, very old legacy systems, and blockchain crypto will, in the back end, revolutionize that infrastructure, make it much, much more easy for money to flow. I mean, we can send each other emails and WhatsApp, very easy, but sending money to the Philippines or money to, I mean, I do a little bit of gold trading as well in Uganda. It's a nightmare. It's really, really, really old-fashioned what is going on in that sort of places, because there's no basic trust infrastructure in place. And if we can get those sort of places also on the blockchain rails, it will revolutionize the way we do business.
And I mean, another, maybe to add to that, blockchain can be used for many different use cases. So we have identified more than 200 use cases across of 12 verticals in the travel so far. So payment is one of them where we see some benefits. It is a little bit awkward, and it's a new process for a lot of travel companies if they want to embark on that. But you can start using completely different processes on blockchain as well. So basically, our message is there, and we know innovation takes time. Till a new innovation actually reaches mass market, it usually goes up to 10 years. So maybe also that's a message to all the startups here. The runway you need to have on a financial level is quite long. And currently, when you try to raise money from VCs, they will all tell you, okay, it needs to go even longer.
Okay, thank you. So we have another question. One here, one there, one here. Okay. We still have 5 minutes, so.
I have a question for Ed.
Okay.
How do you see the correct compliance approach to the financial transactions made on blockchain? Because this is the biggest issue, which is facing the transactional part of that industry.
Yeah, so 4 years ago, I launched the Europe chain, which is the first GDPR supporting blockchain. You see a lot of European enterprises experiment with Web3 technology, and they do proof of concepts, but almost nothing reaches production because majority is being built on Ethereum. Ethereum has unpredictable gas fees and is not legally compliant to GDPR. So these are like basic infrastructural problems that we will fix as an industry. And as soon as that gets traction and gets adoption, I think things can be very quick. Startups don't care about the regulations usually. They just do stuff. And the majority of the projects that I see are illegal. I gave a talk a few weeks ago that everything in Web3 is illegal. Oh, it was in Lisbon. So I had the whole room laughing. So that's what we need to fix. Make it compliant to regulations, make it compliant to privacy rules, and then we can continue to build on this amazing tech layer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have to make...
So, thank you for the mic, thank you for the opportunity. My question is, on that note, having the fact that companies can indeed have their own transaction directly peer-to-peer, what is the proximity that a company can have is soft wallets installed on their system, being able just to make the transaction directly with the customer, not passing over any other shitcoin or any other coin within the blockchain, and just having that transaction directly to the wallets, and being able to transact within those users and their own community within the company itself. Thank you.
Try to understand your question. I think payment will be stable coins, very simple. Circle now introduced the Euro stable coin. It's on Ethereum. I moved it to Proton as well. So you can transaction fee free, do payment transactions peer-to-peer. Wallets are available. There's a lot of infrastructure already available. Not everything is user-friendly on the level that I think is adoptable for my mother, but a lot of the things are available. NFTs are proof of attendance, vouchers. There's a lot of technology available. Inter-blockchain communication is being worked on. So I think at the end, this whole blockchain thing, as soon as we stop talking about it, then we reach mass adoption. Because we shouldn't be talking about whether we run something on a blockchain. If I listen to Spotify, I'm not telling my friend, oh, I listened to Spotify on the Amazon cloud. You simply don't care where it's run on, where it runs on. It's just you have your wallet, you have your visibility. In those wallets, you have your NFTs, you have your history of, you went to the UEFA Cup final, so you have proof of attendance, you have your vouchers, you have your tickets, you have everything that will be in your wallet. Everything of value will be in your wallet. And that wallet will take care of it. Whether it's on the Polygon blockchain or on the Europe chain, it doesn't really matter. That's your front end, and that's what you will see.
Okay, thank you. So we still have another question here.
Hi, hello. Yeah. Thank you guys for all the amazing talks. My question was regarding the Zebra enterprises. How should they position themselves? Because it seems like VCs, most of the time, are looking for their lottery ticket.
That's why a lot of startups won't get money, because they do not fit the standards of a possible win as a lottery ticket. It's basically the same. You should not be talking about, if you are a startup and you are looking for funding, you don't go out to VCs saying, hey, I want to be a zebra, or hey, I want to be a unicorn. That's not what you say. You say, I need this money to do this and to do this, and then this will be the result. And also on VC side, there is change coming that that funding more or other structured companies is also a valid business case. So it's not about what you are, it's what you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we are right on time. So congratulations for that. You did amazingly. Thank you to all of you. I remind you that they will be available all day around and after lunch for those having companies who wants to join the business speed dating debates. Please let us know, and you are mostly welcome to our session. So thank you for all your contributions.